You guys ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, ready when you are.
I'm ready. All right. So we're back. It's 2.5 Chicks. It's Tess, Monica, and Brian. Brian holds his own in all these chick conversations, but I think sometimes Monica and I gang up on you a little bit. What do you think?
I don't mind.
We do.
I like it, to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with having two women double up on you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Two of us are very strong women. We're not meek. So
Yeah.
Oh, I tell everybody that all the time. I'm like, oh, I don't know what I got myself involved with. I'm the dumbest out of the three by a long shot. And
You're not.
I just try to use witty banter just to try to keep up.
Oh my goodness, you're definitely the most fun, Brian. No two ways about it.
yes, you are.
Only as fun as the people around me.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I look forward to doing this every week. I just love talking to you guys. It's fun.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with this too.
Awesome.
This is like a weekly conversation that we have
Yeah.
where we vent and we share our ideas about what we're going to talk about. And it's fun.
It is.
Super fun.
Therapeutic.
It is.
I feel like it's the most productive I am all week. And I'm not even getting paid for it.
Because you actually do homework and you write notes.
Yes, exactly.
Prepare, yeah.
I've never done this much homework since I don't even remember when.
You're passionate about the topics.
I am.
So speaking of topics, today we decided we're going to talk about life with kids versus life without kids. Whether you have them, whether you hate them, whether you date people with them. That's what we're going to talk about. How does it affect all of us?
I'd love your question. How does this affect us? Oh, well, it affects me because I don't have kids. I'm very affected.
All right. So first of all, let's go around and talk about our kid situation to give our listeners a little context here.
That's fair.
You said you don't have kids.
Yeah, I have no kids that I'm aware of. I would love to have someone knock on my door someday and say, I think you're my dad. Because I would be like so excited about that. Yeah, I don't care who or what color or creed or race. I would just love for someone to knock on my door and say, I think you're my dad. I'm like, I wouldn't even need a DNA test. I'm like, okay, let's go do something.
That's cool. I'm not even going to be like a psychotherapist and analyze that, but that's really cool.
My situation with kids was I had my first child at 17. And then I didn't have any other kids for a while. And I had two sons when I was in my 30s. So my daughter is older. She's out of the house, she's living her own life. And my two sons are still with me, 20 and 17.
All right.
If there's any consolation, Monica, I had my first girl at 17 too.
I had my first guy much earlier than that, Brian.
I feel a competition
You
heating
win.
up.
No, she wins.
I win. I do.
Tess, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think I got her in the long run.
I think you might.
You absolutely did.
So I have two stepsons and one son. The stepsons came into my life when I was 28 years old. They were 2 and 4. And now they're 25 and 27. And I had my son when they were 7 and 9, and he's now 18. So we have a 27-year-old, a 25-year-old, and an 18-year-old. All boys.
Okay.
It's been an interesting ride. Like I have a little bit of a vantage point of being a single woman, dating a man with 2 kids, and then a stepmom, and then having kids and the blended family thing. So I have a lot of feelings on the subject.
Yeah, you guys are going to have a little bit more of an advantage on this one because you both have kids, and I'm sure you've all dated people with kids, and I'm kind of on the one side, no kids and date people with kids. So
yeah, but your vantage point
is
just as important because you're representing the no kids side.
Yeah, like I said, I'm that person. I think I used to tell Monica this all the time. I look through the glass house. I see everything you guys are doing, and whether you feel it's right or wrong, I have my opinion on whether I think you're doing it right or wrong.
I felt that way a lot when I had stepkids and I didn't have my own kid. And then when I had my own kid, I realized that parenting isn't as easy as you think it is when you're not a parent. It was humbling, a humbling experience, I mean. Let's delve into dating people with kids when you don't have kids.
Monica, you ever date anybody with kids?
No, actually, I have not. I've always been the one with the kid or kids.
All right, well, let's hear from your vantage point of being the person with the kids and how the guys that you've dated responded or felt about you having the kids?
So when I was younger, it definitely affected my relationships because at that time I was, like I said, 17, 18, 19, 20. I was dating guys in college. And I blamed them at the time, but I don't blame them now. Quite a few of them broke up with me because they said, I didn't sign up for this. I'm too young to be around a girl with a kid. You're the type of girl that a guy shouldn't be messing around with. I mean, if you're not, it's not like, oh, we can just take off and go away for the weekend. You have to think about your daughter, which is true. And I wouldn't have left my daughter. She was very important to me. So I had guys break up with me and flat out tell me they didn't want to date me because I had a daughter.
I guess it's like the perspective, because that's all I've basically been doing in the last 6 years of my life has been dating women with children. And some of the women that I have come across, they tell me, well, they don't tell me, they're on the dating app and they have children, and I'm okay with people having children, but it's like they are not ready to date with the kids involved. It's like, how do I say this? Maybe that's not the right thing I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, my last relationship, for instance, she got on the dating site. She had 2 kids. She didn't, I guess, prep the kids to say, I'm starting to date. I'm going to be having people in my life. So I want you to be respectful of those people when they come over. If I do bring them over, I just feel like a lot of the times the groundwork wasn't laid.
It's complicated, I would say, Brian, in that sense, because obviously a woman, kids or without kids, have their needs and they want to feel loved and they want to be in a relationship. So they may tell their kids they're dating, but sometimes maybe their kids don't fully understand all that entails, which could mean that the boyfriend or girlfriend stays over, or that they're going to be spending a lot more time or taking up mom's time more. That would, normally the kids may not be used to that. They expect to have all of mom's time. So I would just say it's complicated.
I think that a mom also needs to, if she's ready to date, she also needs to know how to represent herself in the dating world without letting her kids run her experience. If a woman's ready to date, that conversation that Brian said that she should have with them, it's about setting expectations. Like some kids try and thwart that process because they're not ready for it. So it's a matter of, I think the person in the dating scenario with kids needs to know how to balance the attention to the kids and the person they're dating. And also the person that they're dating needs to understand that the person's balancing that, if that makes sense.
That's very true, Tess, because that happened to me when I was older with the person I was previously dating. He did not have kids. He did not have any responsibilities. So he had a lot of time on his hands, and he was really bothered about the fact that I couldn't dedicate as much time as he wanted to the relationship because I still had teenage boys at home. And yes, they don't need me to cook for them every day, or they don't need me to change their clothes or walk them to school or whatever, but they still need me to be present. They still need me to be here for when something goes wrong or when they have a question. Yeah, I could spend time with him, but I couldn't spend as much time as he wanted because I didn't want to feel like I had just abandoned my teenage boys.
Yeah.
And so I ended up breaking off the relationship because I felt like I wasn't giving him what he needed. He was getting frustrated and it wasn't going to a good place. It wasn't a happy relationship at that point. So I had to break it off.
I remember when Monica used to have that issue going on, and I was going through the same stuff at the same time. And I would stick up for her boyfriend. I would be like, you're not putting the effort in.
You said that?
Oh, I told her.
You said that?
Yeah, I did, right, Monica?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not going to buffalo anything. I'm going to tell you how it is.
And I felt that I tried to put in as much effort as I could, but it wasn't enough for him.
Her as much effort as she could was like, I'll see you on the weekend. It was only a 40-minute ride to his house. And which was
it was 55.
One traffic light. But I had the same ride. I had a 45-minute ride to Staten Island. But I would do it twice a week, and she would do it twice a week, and then we'd see each other on the weekend. We made an effort to see each other. I just felt like Monica didn't want to make that effort. He didn't want to make that effort to come in this direction.
But I have a rebuttal for that because, yes, I'm the one with the child, but the man was the one dating me with a child. You were the one dating a woman with a child. So you should have known that she was not going to be there 100% of the time that you
I
needed
agree
her to
with
be
you,
there.
and I didn't say that. I said we saw each other at least 5 times a week, 7-day a week. We saw each other 5 times a week. You saw each other like once.
No, we saw each other more
How
than
often?
that.
What's the most in a week you would give? 7 days, 3 days,
Three,
Okay.
3 or 4.
Well, and I'm not picking on you because I know that he also had his issues. I used to say to him, I have to say, I stuck up for him. I was like, Monica, you got 2 kids that are way old enough to be on their own. Yes, you see them when you get home. You can go spend time with this guy. This guy can come to your house and spend time. Just tell, your kids are probably going to sit upstairs and play their video games anyway.
And for that, I have to say that the 55-minute drive made a difference. Because if I drove 55 minutes down to his house to see him, and then I had to drive 55 minutes back home, that's right there. That's like a 2-hour drive after I had worked all day.
I think
I did it.
there's such a thing also as mom guilt. It's easier if you're dating someone who understands that you
Yes.
want to be present for your children. And I get a sense of, like with my son, I get a sense of he doesn't need me. He's in his room. But if he does, he knows I'm there. And there's something to that. Whereas if I was dating someone with kids, going to them more often, I would probably, being a mom and having that mom guilt, I would understand that desire to be there for your kids. And I would know that if I don't have kids and you do have kids, I would probably be driving to that person more based on those circumstances.
Completely agree, Tess.
Based on people's perspective.
Yes.
All right, well, let's transition into, since we're on the topic of dating people with kids, when is it inappropriate, and is it ever an appropriate time to discipline the kids that are not yours?
Never.
That's not entirely true. My experience. The very first thing I did when I started dating someone these kids were 2 and 4. They were little. They needed guidance, And one of the things I did was I read books because I was like, what's my role? What's my responsibility? And one of the things that I learned was it was not my responsibility to make decisions about things that belong to the parents. It wasn't my responsibility to make decisions about their schooling or things that were up to the 2 parents. But when they were in my home, when they were in my house, yes, I did have a say in the rules. So that was kind of the delineation. And it was still very difficult. But as to not confuse the kids, I had to know what that boundary was.
I don't have that boundary. I was not raised in the sense where, oh, you can go get away with everything you under the sun. No, we were disciplined immediately. I'm not saying we were slapped right away or something, but we were told, right, yeah, knock it off. Yeah, that was a big phrase, knock it off. And then you knew it was going to come after the next time you did it, so you didn't do it. So I find myself, like the last relationship, here's an example. We were together for a year, and she said, why don't you sleep over? This was after a year of dating. She says, sleep at my place. We'll sleep on the couch together. And I was like, ask your son if it's okay for me to sleep over. She's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, 2:00 in the morning comes, and there's this 17-year-old kid, 17 years old, screaming at the top of his lungs, get this fucking guy out of my house.
He was 15, Brian.
Was he 15?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so he was 15 years old, screaming, get this fucking guy out of my house. That makes it even worse to me, okay? And here I was so angry. I wasn't angry at him in the beginning. I was angry at her because I had said to her, can you tell him or ask him, make him feel like he's in charge? He's the man of the house. I'm doing the quote signs. And let him know, like, you want me to spend the night, and ask his permission. It probably would have been a difference. Maybe he would have said no, but it wouldn't have been so horrible. I had to get up at 2:00 in the morning and drive 45 minutes home. Okay. It was ridiculous because she didn't do her job. And I felt like I was the one being the better parent here. And it wasn't even my kid.
Yeah, he was in shock when he found you there, right? He didn't know you were going to stay.
Probably.
Yeah.
He'd have been in shock a lot earlier if he'd have walked down earlier and saw what was going on.
It was not your fault that happened. Obviously, yes, it was the mother's fault, but it wasn't his fault either because he's 15.
I get it. I understand that. I understand that. But this kid was a straight A student. This is a smart kid. But boy, oh boy, no filter on him as far as like F-bombs this way and F-bombs that way. And her not doing it, her just allowing the behavior. It could have been the culture.
Differences in parenting styles are difficult even when people share a child. And when you're stepping into a situation where it's not your child, it's even harder when you disagree with the parenting. There were a lot of times where I may or may not have agreed what was happening with my stepsons, but it was difficult because I didn't really have full control over it. And even when you share a child with somebody, you don't always agree with how that other parent is parenting.
When it's not your child or your stepchild, I always say to people who have stepchildren that yes, you can guide them to do the right thing, but you can never discipline them like their parents do. Because, and I hate this quote, blood is thicker than water. So the kids will always take whatever they want from their parents. But from somebody who's not like their actual parent, like the person they see as their parent, they won't take it the same way. They won't respond the same way. They may love you, but still, you will never be able to discipline them the same exact way as like their actual parents will.
Yeah, but which is ironic because later on, these kids want nothing to do with their parents as far as listening to them. But the minute a stranger says something to them, they're like, oh, that makes sense. You can tell them left, right, and center, don't touch the stove. And they'll be like, whatever. But if some stranger tells them don't touch the stove, they're like, okay, that makes sense.
I think it depends on your role in their life, too. Like, in the beginning, no kids are going to listen to a person that's not their parent. But I think if you're in their life for a longer amount of time, or if the other parent...
I was going to say that I agree with that. I understand where you're going. If they see that you love them and that you love them like a parent, then yes, life. You can get to that point. Yes. But they have to know that you love them like a parent. Yes,
and also if the other parent supports you as a co-parent. So in other words, we had different rules in our house than my stepsons had with their mom. We just had different rules. And they got to know that over time. And it's not even like we were like ultra super strict or anything. It was just different. And they had to adapt. It was like this at mom's and it was like this at dad's. And dad and I were a consolidated unit about how we wanted to raise them. But it's funny because you say that blood is thicker than water. At this point in my life with those boys, oh gosh, they tug at my heartstrings, and I think they love me. I'm not their mom. I'll never be their mom, but there's such a strong bond despite that. I get super emotional whenever I see them, whenever I leave them. So it's weird how over time that can really grow and change.
You and I had very different experiences with step parents for our children because, like you said, you had a cohesive unit with your husband, and you showed love to those boys. You showed respect to those boys. Even though you put the rules down, you still showed them respect. And that built into a long-term relationship with them where they love you and respect you, and they'll listen to anything you say at this point. So I had the opposite experience. My ex and I were not cohesive. I didn't agree with his methods. He was way harsher than he needed to be. And some people can say I was very lenient, but he was way too much to the point where my daughter was very unhappy being around him. And over time, the relationship between him and her deteriorated. But it's nice to hear that you were able to have a really good experience as a step parent.
The thing is I think it was based on longevity and working through a lot of stuff. Like, it wasn't always easy. And I don't mean to make it sound like it was all roses, because it wasn't. Like, blended families never are. And even my husband and I had different parenting styles. So yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like it was all roses, but the longevity was on my side as far as that relationship with them. And the fact that I knew that not everything was my business. In other words, I knew what the boundaries were. And also their mom is a very strong personality, and it was like there was never going to be stepping on her toes, which I respect. She's their mom. Some kids don't have that strong of a personality in one of their parents. So sometimes it's helpful when another, a co-parent or step-parent steps in. But that wasn't our situation. Their mom was a very, very active mom. What's the word I'm looking for?
Pain in the ass.
No, she was a very, just they were her kids. It was very clear they were her kids. She was always going to have a very active role. Definitely. And hey, if I was in that situation and my kids were going to someone else's house and, I had an ex who had, a new wife, I wouldn't want somebody to step on my toes as a mother either. I did that one time. I stepped on her toes one time and it didn't go over well. It didn't go over well. I learned. It just happened to be that I got into an argument with her over her not respecting my husband as their father. That's where I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. So that's why I stepped on her toes. But I wouldn't have had to have done that if she was respecting him in the moment. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's water under the bridge. But yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy for me because here I've thought the older I get, I'm going to wind up dating women with kids. I understand that. But I thought at some point, these kids are going to be 18, 19, out the house. What do? I find someone with a 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. And now I'm 52 with a 48-year-old with a 5-year-old. Okay? And I'm like, I had a conversation with her last night. We were laying down and just having just a talk. And she said, I really, really want to thank you. I respect you for being honest and for like questioning my parenting style. Her husband had passed away. So she was 3 months into having this child. The guy passes away. And now she's left to raise this kid by herself for the last 5 years. And now I come in and I'm the most opinionated a-hole. But now I'm thrust into this, like, do I stay or do I go? There's so many different thoughts going through my head. She's an amazing human being. It's tough because I question her parenting style all the time. The kid is completely overindulged. I get the whole situation. I get it. There's just one parent. The father's not in the picture. This kid probably goes to school all the time, sees kids hugging their dads, this and that. But, you know, we're driving down the road and the kid will say, oh, mommy, look at that house. It looks really nice. I wish I lived there with you and daddy.
She says that? Oh.
Yeah. And then, you know, my girl looks at me like, sorry, you know, and I'm okay. Wait. Is it a dream? Because she doesn't know she never knew her dad, right? So it's a dream? Well, that's what I said. She doesn't know her dad, but there's pictures of this guy all over the house. Everywhere you look, there's a picture of the guy. And she's doing the right thing. She's talking about him.
Yeah.
She's telling him about the father. You know, she keeps in contact with the in-laws, the ex, you know, I don't even know. Are they ex-in-laws? Are they still in-laws? Is it till death do us part on the in-laws too? I don't know how it works.
Well, it's definitely her grandparents. Yeah.
Yeah. She's doing the right thing. But this kid makes it very clear to me. I wish daddy was here, not you.
Well, 5 is a little young to try and set boundaries and explain it to her. You know, I think that one's just time is on your side.
Or against me.
I don't know. I mean...
Let's change topics on this. Let's get out of this dating people with kids thing because I feel like I'm just running on a treadmill at this point because I keep making choices with people with kids that don't like me. So let's talk about unruly kids in public places. How do we feel about that? And did you guys ever have that kid?
I never had that kid. No. Well, every kid is like that. How long do you let them behave that way in public?
Right.
Is the question.
Yeah. So do you ever see the parent that like lets that kid just run amok and eats the ice cream cone while the kid's running around, tripping over stuff?
I can't stand it.
Okay, here is the empathetic perspective on that.
Here is I had those kids.
Actually, my kids were not like terrors. I mean, one time one of my sons got lost at Kohl's because he ran off, but it wasn't like he was causing trouble or anything or destroying anything. He just ran away.
No, that's a typical thing.
I've just learned that little kids, yes, they act up, but they're acting up because either that's how they've learned to be and they don't know any other way to act, or they're not feeling well in the sense because little kids do not like to have their parents mad at them. The parents are their world, their love, their gods. So if they are doing something that they know makes their parents angry, then there's some underlying reason there. It could be the kid has ADD. It could be the kid ate some food that caused them to have a certain mood. It could be the kid's tired. It could be the kid's hungry. They're lonely. They don't feel loved. So it could be a lot of reasons. And, you know, maybe the parent is exhausted of working, of stress, having no money, not being able to buy something, or they're going through some shit. So I know it's annoying to see the kids running around and making noise and doing this and that, but little kids don't do that because they want to be seen as bad. Nobody wants to be seen as bad as a child.
I think my point is, though, Monica, I'm not really picking on the kids here. I'm picking on the parents.
I know
Yeah.
you are, and I'm just saying that we don't know what the parents are going through. Yeah, maybe some parents just really don't give a shit, but maybe other parents are having a hard time with something and they just don't have the energy to yell at the kid in front of everybody or worry about what everybody else thinks of them as a parent to act on it. Because that's really why a lot of parents reprimand their kids, because they're afraid that other people are going to look at them as bad parents.
That's how I'm looking at you guys.
No, I think that if you have your kid out in public, you have to be prepared to remove them when they're behaving a certain
Yes.
way. And
That's what I agree with.
And the thing is, Monica, I get what you're saying, because every parent is like, I'm just too tired, or I'm just fed up, or I'm just like, we all go through that stuff. But what bothers me is when I'm in a restaurant and a kid is screaming at the top of their lungs, it's up to the parent to remove the child from the restaurant until they calm down and then come back in. And if you've got 3 kids in tow and you're trying to shop, it's not realistic.
I agree.
It's easy for me to say, I'm not a single parent, so I know that it's hard. Like, when do you shop? And when you've got 3 kids. And if I saw parents that were struggling with controlling their children, I'd feel better for the parent. But when I see a parent in a restaurant that's carrying on a conversation and laughing when their kid is misbehaving, I don't feel bad for the parent.
I'll be honest with you. I don't have kids, so I don't feel bad for any parent with the kid that acts like that. I think that's the parent's fault.
I just feel bad for everybody.
I know you do. You
Wow,
are
we have a
empathetic
little bit of a spectrum here.
Yes, yes, I do. I always
we do.
feel that we don't know what people's stories are, what's going on in their head, how they got to that moment, what memories got them or taught them to react that way. So
I get that. But when I'm spending my money in a nice restaurant, like you said, Tess,
Yeah.
I don't want your problems on my plate. Stay home. Eat a TV dinner.
Yeah, I don't like the screaming in a restaurant. I don't like that. And I just think parents should pick up their kid and go outside until they calm down,
That's right. I know everybody's going to hate me for this, but I feel like parents are assholes.
and I'm going to say that people without kids are assholes.
Yeah, we are. We are. We are, because we call you guys out on all your bullshit and failures. And we see them walking around on 2 legs all the time. Your little failures walking around, right?
Oh, goodness,
it's
Brian.
aggravating.
I think there's a middle ground.
This brings me to my next point. How are you raising your kids differently than you were raised?
I'm kinder.
Okay.
I made it a point to be kinder.
Your kids are very quiet, Monica. Your kids are hard to pick on because they're kind of just, I don't mean this in a bad way, they're kind of non-existent. Your kids are just, if we're
What is
in a
that? I
room
was like,
full
what
of
does that
people-
mean?
I know it sounds horrible.
They
I
won't
know.
make a
I'm not good with
ruckus.
words.
They won't offend
Monica,
anybody.
If we were in a room full of people and your kids were there, I would probably try to put my drink on one of their heads because they just stand there, they're quiet.
I think
they
that's
don't
a
move.
compliment, Monica.
Good thing I'm not going to let my kids listening to this podcast.
It's a compliment. It's
Yeah.
a compliment. They're not these little shits that run around screaming and yelling. I would never know your kids are in the room. And Tess, you have the same thing. Your kid's been quiet his whole life. He's one of those speak when spoken to kids. I love it. I think it's the most amazing
Oh, he
thing.
had a lot more personality when he was younger. You didn't know
Yeah,
him
but
then.
even that wasn't even like I'm trying to gauge it off of my personality.
Right. No, he's definitely different. Yeah.
But yeah, you guys have been, I don't know if it was blessed or if you guys were doing something right, but your kids are really quiet and really good. I mean, I see other people out there and I see the way they raise their kids and I'm like, you were not raised that way. And you turned out okay. But you're raising your kid this way and he's an asshole. So like, what's the difference? What did you guys do different?
I tried to be kinder. I wasn't always the best mom, obviously. I've had moments where I've gotten angry, I've yelled at them, and I feel bad later that I said things to them that I shouldn't have said. And I respect my kids. I've never had this attitude where I think, well, I'm their parent, they're supposed to respect me, and I treat them like shit. I don't subscribe to that.
I subscribe to that.
I treat them the way I expect them to treat me. And I will say that never, ever have one of my kids ever, they would never even think of it. It's unimaginable to them. Cuss me out or offend me or call me a name.
Well, Monica, we were raised differently,
so
but
they-
we were raised with the fist.
Yeah.
And we would never think to do that to our parents either.
Yeah, but we came out real fucked up, Brian.
I know. I agree. We were definitely raised fucked up. I'm not going to argue that. But for, I feel like I look around me and I look at the people, I feel like it worked. You know what I mean? I feel like the problem is that you guys, your generation or our generation, flipped the script and started coddling the kids so much that the kids are assholes.
Their lives are much easier. There's no two ways about it.
Yes.
Yeah. And because it's much easier, they do have more feelings of entitlement. I'll agree with that. But I do think that if the kids turned out assholes, that's because the parents were assholes and the kids are just pretty much, without thinking about it, mimicking their parents.
It's interesting because I just have always tried to see things from my son's point of view. I didn't over-discipline him. My parents turned me to who I am today, so I respect them like crazy. I love and respect them like crazy, but I wasn't as strict on my son as my parents were on me. But I still had boundaries with him, but he's definitely a kid of the electronic age. He's definitely raised different than I was raised. He's definitely not had it very hard, and that's apparent. But he's turned out to be a fantastic person despite that. But I have fallen into the same trap that a lot of parents fall into, where you lose your temper. You are just too tired. You just, there's no way as a parent you can do it right all the time. And luckily if you do it right enough, your kids grow up to be good people.
Monica used to say to me all the time, you rag on people with kids all the time. But if you had your own child...
Oh, yes. That child would run you ragged.
It's a humbling experience.
It is. I will say that I feel parents, that's one of the pros of being a parent. You learn how to be humbled, like truly humbled. I also feel that as a parent, you learn what true love is. Like when my children are happy, that's like the greatest happiness for me. And when they're in pain, the pain is like tenfold of anything that could ever happen to me. And it's unconditional how I love them. And I've never loved any partner of mine the way I love my children.
You loved making them, though, didn't you?
Yeah, it was fun.
It's a different kind of love.
Yes.
It's a love that almost hurts.
Yes.
That's what I tell people all the time. But Brian, what I want to say is from everything I saw and heard you talk about your relationship out here, your California relationship, you would have been an outstanding parent because you blend in the right amount of discipline, but you're also there for them, and you would teach them and you give them things, and you would have been an outstanding parent despite all of your tough guy stuff that's coming out on this call and how much of your hatred of kids. I think you would have been a fantastic parent.
I don't think it's a hatred of kids. It's a hatred of the parents not doing the right things. Once I have an in with the kid, I'm okay. It's fine. It's wonderful. It's getting to that point and teaching that parent that I'm dating my side of it, my perspective. Just listen to me. My advice to people with kids would be like, listen to us sometimes. I told you, we see through the glass.
We're not biased.
Have that, this is my child. We're not biased. We're telling you, this is probably wrong. You probably shouldn't do that. Yeah. Now, I don't know what right and wrong is in your world, right? I don't, but there are some common sense things that we see all the time that you guys don't see.
If you're dating somebody and they love and respect you, then they should want to hear your feedback about their children.
But the thing is, from my experience that I had, and I only had one experience with this, it's almost like when they tell you that, they put you on the defensive because they come at you like, this is what you're doing wrong, and this is what you need to do right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
What is the right approach if you're dating someone and they observe something about your kids? And how do they approach the mother with that, or the parent that they're dating?
I would say the right approach would be to tell the parent why they feel this will be detrimental to both the child and the parent going down the line. Like, how will this hurt them in the future?
Conversation about someone's kid's behavior should never be about immediately attacking the parent. It should be about, hey, I have some concerns. Are you open to listening to this? Like, it's about the approach.
And my recommendation to you is to stop thinking that your kids are 2 and let some guy come over and knock it out once in a while.
Good point.
That makes you a happier parent.
On that note, anybody got anything else? Well, I guess that's it for today. Thank you for agreeing with me sometimes, Tess, and Monica, thank you for being wrong a lot.
Thanks,
Love you
everyone.
guys.
Love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later, Gators.
Thanks for tuning in to 2.5 Chicks. We would love to hear from you. Questions, comments, or give us a suggestion about something you'd like to hear us chat about. You can leave us a voicemail at podinbox.com/2, P as in Paul, 5, C as in chick. Or you can email us at 2.5chickspod@gmail.com. And please go on over to Instagram and follow us there at 2.5chicks. We'll be back again next week. See you then.